Welcome to the Holding Time podcast. Here we discuss breastfeeding in all its complexity, the ups and downs, the challenges, the triumphs. Whether you're expectant, a new mother, or simply interested, I hope you'll appreciate the incredible warrior women who are featured in this series.
It's hard, isn't it? Because he's 3.5, but his birthday's July, so he starts school next September. And society's not quite ready for that yet, I don't think. I need to really help him on his way by then. When baby was born, we were in hospital for a whole week because he was being treated for sepsis. I hadn't really thought about. I'd sorted out, he was going to be with my sister for two nights, and he was happy with that. And obviously, he goes to school, preschool, and he doesn't have milk during the day or anything like that. So he was happy. He was having a sleepover with his cousins and everything while I had baby. But I hadn't factored in what would happen if we stayed longer than that. And it was really awful because of obviously the COVID restrictions. He couldn't come in to see me. I couldn't go to see him, and then and obviously your hormones kicking in as well. I was thinking, I hadn't even thought it's kind of forcing an end, which is what I didn't want to happen. And I think at that point I was sad for him. I was also really sad for me because I felt that I wasn't ready, which is really funny because I never wanted to breastfeed, but so I actually felt really sad, and I was really teary to the staff. And in the end, I went and saw him in the little garden area. They looked after the baby for me. And he didn't even mention it, and it made me even worse. And I was like, oh no. But then when we got home, and we got in the house, and obviously baby started feeding, and he was like, can I have some? And I was like, yeah, you can. So, and that's where the tandem started really. But when I was writing that little creative writing piece, and I've actually got it on video, so I wanted pictures of them, their first tandem feeds. I was like, how lovely is that going to be? And the baby stopped feeding, and he looked at him, and my eldest looked and went, eat your booby. I wasn't expecting that.
Eat your greens.
Yeah, basically. It was like, don't mess about, eat your booby.
That's amazing.
I always say to people, I was very much, that I wasn't going to, I was doing it to get people off my case. When they were like, breastfeeding this, breastfeeding, I was like, whatever.
Is that the midwife?
Yeah, you just kind of feel that. I think because I'm a nurse myself, I know, you're promoting best practice, but, I was like, I'll do it, I'll give it a go. And it was so hard to begin with, it really was. So I did the normal, I'll do it for a little bit, I'll do it a little bit longer, I'll do it till he's 6 months, I'll do it till I go back to work, and here I am 3.5 years later feeding 2. I don't entirely know how to parent without boob. I take my hat off to people that bottle feed. I'm not organised enough to do so. And when he's having a tantrum on the floor in the middle of somewhere, that's what I go to. That's my go-to parenting tool because it works. It settles him down. It brings him back.
You had a bereavement in the early days of breastfeeding.
I did, yeah. My mum had she'd had cancer for 2.5 years. But it sounds really strange to say that it wasn't expected that she was going to die, but it wasn't at that point. She was quite well, but she developed abdominal sepsis basically. 4 weeks after I had my first, she was in hospital, and then she was on a syringe driver, and then she was unconscious, and we brought her home. So we had six days of her at home where she wasn't remaining responsive, which was really hard because it was like Groundhog Day every day. You knew it was going to happen, but you just didn't know when. We're all healthcare professionals, so we all kind of you get up each morning, and it was lovely that she was still there. But on the flip side, it wasn't. It was, I'm going through this grief every day. We know it's going to happen. And feeding throughout that, I really struggled with it, because I felt I had a little person that kept shouting and screaming at me, and I wanted to be with my mum. I felt so torn between the two, and I had massive anxiety at the time, and everything just feels, when I look back now, everything just feels really kind of dreamlike. I'm not entirely sure how we got through that. It was not a great time. I struggled when she was in hospital, because I couldn't understand what they were talking about. And you're thinking, I'm a nurse, I'm a senior nurse. I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't have the conversations. Like 2 years later, I was like, oh, I didn't ask that. Should have asked this. Should have had that. But at the time, you're just so in a bubble.
You said that keeping breastfeeding made you wanted to keep breastfeeding after that, because it kind of made it worthwhile that you had done it.
Yeah, I felt a duty too, that if I didn't, then what was all that for? Why didn't I just spend the time with my mum? So I kind of felt that I would have done it a kind of bit of a disservice. I wouldn't have done, looking back now, but I at the time I felt it would have been a bit of a disservice to her that, like, I'd separated my time between her and baby and then gone, oh, do you know what? I'm not going to do that now. That did kind of like spur me on to get through the next few months, really. Well, the next few weeks, definitely. Everyone always says, oh, when does it stop hurting? When does, it get a bit easier? I actually remember it getting easier. And it was at week 9. And I don't even know what happened. I just remember it being that point where it just seemed different. It just seemed like it all kind of fitted together a little bit more. The pain had stopped. We had a little bit of a routine, as much as you ever do. We'd adjusted to each other. Obviously, funeral and stuff like that was all out of the way as well. And it was just kind of me and him. That's it. We're going for it. But it noticeably changed in those early days when you're worrying, are they feeding? I had no idea. I was just kind of like winging it. And I think that's why I got so confused over everything. And then they were like, oh, he lost like 11% weight, me first. They were like, right, you need to look at doing top-ups, you need to do this, and I'm like, I don't know what any of this means at all. And a part of it was definitely because I was in a massive heightened state of like hormones and anxiety, and I didn't have a clue. But I just don't think anything was explained wonderfully either, to be honest. I don't know what a top-up is, and I was doing it like one way, and they're like, no, you're not meant to do it that way, you're meant to do it this way. And I was like, oh, I don't know. That was really confusing time, I think. It took the local breastfeeding support to come out for anything to actually make any sense at all. And they were absolutely fantastic. I still credit my breastfeeding down to this one woman that came out, and she's fabulous. And if you speak to anybody locally, they will tell you exactly the same. It's always the same person.
And who is that?
Sarah Atherton with Koala Northwest.
Yeah.
I mean, bear in mind, she's coming to my house and I'm like in floods of tears. I don't know what's happening. And like, she's just so normal. Like a relative maybe, or like a friend or something. And I think that's made such a difference. And that's, I suppose, what we don't have necessarily in this country in terms of support, is it? If it's not overtly the norm to breastfeed, as it might be somewhere else, and that family support, that friend support might not be available to her. But that's what she felt like to me. Like she was like, right, we're going to sort you out now. Let's do this. And very kind of, it's all okay. It's all good. She's, I mean, I put it into things, but I laugh about it. She's lying on the floor showing me side, breastfeeding. No, you don't get midwife turning up to your house doing that, do you? She's like, right, okay, what you want to do is this. She's a fabulous woman. She was the one person, and I'd say her in particular, because it was that I could send, I could talk to her, I'd go in and say, look at this picture of his nappy, what's this about? She's like, do you know what, my phone is full of pictures of nappies. Because people just send poo pictures to us. Is this normal? It's normal. And that's, and that's what the beauty of those little groups were. You don't go around to your friends and say, look at this child's nappy. Does that look normal? These breastfeeding support groups, that was the norm. You could have those conversations. It's brilliant. You know, she single-handedly, I would say, is at that time, those early weeks, and then followed up after a once they were really great, to be honest. We'll keep in touch during it, and they were like, just do what you need to do. Give us a call when everything's a bit more kind of settled. But if she hadn't come around that day, I was just so distraught with it all, and felt so kind of like, but I did feel quite, I don't like to use it, but I did feel quite useless at that point. I didn't I'm just put this child to me. I've got no idea what it's doing, no idea if it's doing anything. I feel like I felt like a bit of a fraud more than anything. So I do kind of single-handedly credit her with my continuation of my journey in those early days. And I think once you get over that barrier, it is that little bit easier. I know I found since my eldest has got older and my anxiety's not there, and I addressed it basically in the end, this one has been an absolutely different experience, and I've loved every minute of it. And again, I get that guilt that I didn't have that with my first. It was like, come on, I'll do it, but I'm not enjoying it as such. Not till the later stages of it anyway. Whereas with this one, it feels lovely to be able to do that. It still feels lovely breastfeeding my older one, to be honest, but it's just an absolute experience that I missed out on because of my own anxieties, my own thoughts, and everything else that was going on at the time. So it's almost like a little second chance to do it again, whilst having that experience and knowing that that's okay, that's normal, and there's a lot to be said for that. It really makes you feel a lot more settled because you've done it before, and he's fine. Everything's good.
Thanks for listening, and thanks to everyone involved, our funders, Cheshire and Merseyside Women's Health and Maternity Programme, Arts Council England Lottery Awards for their support, along with all the amazing mothers and partners who have helped to make this project happen. You can find out more about the project by visiting holdingtime.org.